Have you noticed how often people say, I just can't meditate? My mind won't stop.
Yes, and most of the time it's not the mind that's restless, it's the body that hasn't found stillness yet.
So we keep trying to think our way into stillness.
When actually what's needed is to arrive in the body.
And that's what today's episode is all about.
Mental steadiness begins at Kaya Sthiram.
So I've practiced yoga consistently for about 10 years now. And I know that the most important part of building consistency and experiencing the true benefits of yoga is community. Other people to hold you accountable. And second to that is a solid practice plan. Simple, guided sequences that you can practice for a long period of time. Too often, we skip practice when no one's watching. And when we do find the courage to show up, we find picking a random class on the internet feels completely overwhelming. And this is exactly why I created the OmSom app. It's a free study tool to learn the Sanskrit and philosophy of yoga. Plus, it's home to the Sadhana Sangha, which is our online community. Within that community, you won't only find daily challenges to keep you accountable to showing up every single day, but every single month, me and the team will give you 5 practices. We'll take you through an Asana workshop, a subtle technique workshop, and we'll break down a few lines of the Yoga Sutra together. It's honestly been my dream to create this app for so long now, ever since I started teaching, because this is what I truly needed when I started practicing yoga. Check it out in the show notes, or just search OmSom on the App Store. That's OMSOM. Anyway, back to the episode. Welcome to the OmSom Yoga and Ayurveda podcast. My name is Aaron Petty. I'm a yoga therapist and teacher trainer. And in this episode, I am joined by Lina Zarina. So welcome to the podcast, Lina. This is your first time ever joining the podcast. Is this your first ever podcast?
It's my first ever podcast.
Oh my God. So as you guys know, we're cycling in all of our team this year because Paige, you need a little bit of a break. So, because this is your first ever podcast, Lina, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Specifically, what I want you to tell me is, what was your first ever yoga experience?
Yes. My housemate used to come back home, and she used to be so peaceful and so calm, and I was in this state of constant rushing. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm going to yoga. I'm like, what in the world is yoga?
Okay.
And she was just like, just some stretching. And I was like, okay, cool. We had a beautiful studio around the corner from where we live. And I was like, cool. And I looked at the timetable and I was like, all right, cool. There's an advanced class this evening.
Dang, advanced.
I'm like, all right, let's go. How hard could stretching be, right?
Okay.
And that was the mindset. And I went and I started the class, and the teacher spoke in Sanskrit the entire class.
Really?
And
That's
I
unheard of.
and I was just like, what in the world? But at the same time, I left and I was like, oh, there's something here. And it was really fun. And I was like, okay, maybe not an advanced class, but I'll come back to this. And from there, it kind of started to trickle class by class. I started to feel a lot more rejuvenated, but I wasn't really sure what that was yet. And the outlook for it was still very physical based. And it wasn't much further down the track where I was like, oh, yin. My first yin experience. And from my first yin experience, it started to lead into meditation and then started to lead into an actual balanced practice. And that's how we got here.
Yeah, okay. So you took your 200 hour at some point.
Yes.
How far in was that for you?
For me, it was maybe 4 to 6 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right then.
And I never wanted to teach.
As we all say.
Yeah. I did my yin training first.
Okay.
And then I did a 100-hour yin, and then I did a 200-hour later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then after that 200 hours, you showed up at OmSom one day and you sat around the tea table and you chatted our ears off.
Exactly.
And we all just fell in love with you. And so then, after you started coming to the studio, you started taking some of our trainings, and then Paige and I had to go away somewhere, I believe.
Yes, you guys.
And we said, okay, Lina, you're in charge now.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, and that was maybe like 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And now you manage the studio and you manage our community, and you're such an integral part of the culture and the warmth of Omsom. And so, yeah, I'm so stoked to have you here to be able to share this.
I'm so grateful. This has been an absolute wild journey. But
Yeah.
so amazing.
Yeah. And so for you guys listening, if you're part of Sadhana Sangha, maybe you've taken Lina's class. This January has been our kind of introduction to the rest of our teaching team for you guys. So yeah, like if you're part of Sadhana Sangha, if you practice with us online, check out Lina's classes, because there's going to be so many more coming in the next few months. And yeah, it's a joy to practice with you. So we're super stoked. Anyway, let's get into today's episode. We always start the podcast with a story. So I'm going to tell you a story. So there's this old teaching across a lot of the yogic traditions. And what they say is that a restless body cannot house a steady mind. Yeah, so if you're always going here and there and here and there, it's your mind is doing that. So what they say is that in the forests of India, the sages used to sit and they would just observe nature, right? We hear about the rishis. So they used to observe the wild animals, and they started to observe that the animals never truly rested until they first felt completely safe in their bodies. Yeah, and so a deer would lie down only once its legs were folded beneath, and then its breath would slow, and the tension of its kind of like alertness would dissolve, and then it would start to settle. But until then, even while it was standing still, its awareness was always kind of scattered and alert and ready. Yeah. So what they started to recognize was that this same thing happens in human beings. Yeah. So when our body is vigilant, when there's urgency or something's unresolved, the mind continues to roam. Our thoughts are fragmented, and stillness is impossible for us. And it's not because like the mind is broken, but it's just because we haven't fully arrived in that stillness yet. And so this is where the teaching of Kaya Sthiram comes from. Before our meditation practice, we have to settle our body. And it's not through force, but it's through like becoming present with sensation. And when the body recognizes that stillness, the nervous system starts to soften, to settle. And once the nervous system settles, then the breath starts to settle. And only then does our mind discover the capacity for rest, for stillness. And yoga has always understood this. Stillness doesn't start with the mind, it starts with the body. And so this week, kind of as a conclusion, it's almost a conclusion of our January bhav, which is mula, the earth element. We're going to start to look into what we call Kaya Sthiram. And Kaya Sthiram is like one of the first teachings that we give people on our 200-hour training. It's a technique that we like adore here at Omsom. We teach it all the time. It's kind of the foundation for our meditation practice. And yeah, it's something that like all of us just put so much time and effort into. So, Yoga Sutra, Patanjali is super clear, right? Asana comes before pranayama. Pranayama becomes before meditation. And only after the asana and pranayama have finished can we start to sit into meditation. And it's not because of like some hierarchical structure, but it's actually that's what we need to come into meditation.
100%. It's kind of reflected on my journey of yoga as well, where it's like, no, my body had to come to this stillness in order for me to start to down-regulate my nervous system.
And I think like so many people are like, I don't know, it's like this trend in yoga at the moment of just like asana is not important. Asana is not real yoga. We shouldn't have to put so much emphasis on asana. But I think it's like there's a reason why we put so much emphasis on asana, because we can't start with yoga. You can't just sit down, any random person off the street, and have yoga, the experience of awareness. You have to start with the body, right? So it's like we have to have this as our first emphasis, the asanas, the physical form. We start in the physical form, and then we start to move layer by layer a little bit deeper. So let's talk about Kaya Sthiram a little bit. Let's talk about first the translation. Something we do on the podcast is we always do a direct translation of whatever our topic is. So this word Kaya Sthiram, it comes from Sanskrit, and it gets broken up into those two words, as all the words do, Kaya and Sthiram. So Kaya means the body, the field, the physical form. It's also the word that they would use for like embodiment. Yeah. And then Sthiram, we know from Sthiram Sukham Asanam. Sthiram means steadiness, stability, to be unmoving, to be stable. That kind of, it's not rigid, but it's steadiness. It can hold. So Kaya Sthiram is the steadiness of the body, or the stillness of the body. Yeah, it's kind of like it's half of our picture in the context of asana, because we also have the sukham. We're going to explore that in another episode. But this sthiram piece, it's about bringing the body into its stillness, right? And through that, we can start to enter into relaxation, and that starts to then filter into the mind. I think the other thing I wanted to add here was just this word kaya. It's not just the body, but it's also the word that they would use for like a field of awareness. So it's not so much that just your body is still, but the awareness that you are enters into this field of sthiram. So it's like the stillness is something that's kind of always there.
Yeah.
If our modern world or the world that we inhabit is a world of movement, right, where everything's happening all the time, there's this underlying stillness that we can also tap into. What I'm getting is like, what's that show about the kids and they go into like the upside down? Stranger Things?
Stranger Things, yeah.
And, you know, like the upside down is just a mirror world of the world that they live in. And so my thought process is like, Kaya Sthiram is the world that mirrors our own. It's the upside down, where everything is still.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're trying to move into that as a lived experience that always exists, but we're just unaware of it.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of like it's almost an analogy for the two states of our nervous system, that like we have the sympathetic state where there's stress and we're always alert, we're always doing all these things, and we have the parasympathetic state, which is I'm relaxed.
Calm.
Yeah. All right. So let's maybe talk about, do you want to just walk us through like what are the stages that we work through with Kaya Sthiram? Like when you're teaching Kaya Sthiram, how do you teach it?
I first usually guide everyone to notice where they're sitting, like this ground that's always unmoving. And it's really, for me, whenever I think about grounding and stillness, the earth comes to me first.
Yeah.
And so recognizing how I'm sitting, where the contact is, and then from that, I allow it to rise up the body and start to notice the stillness of the body, and to get all of the wriggles and the wiggles out of the way first, because that's, the irritabilities, the scratching of the noses and the flicking of the hair, just so that can all move out of the way, so there's no distractions or less distractions as we start to not disassociate, but disconnect from the external world. Yeah, that's kind of the first step. And then recognizing the stillness of the body, and then recognizing the slowness of the breath and the little gap of the breath, the pause of the breath in and the pause at the end of the breath out. And then the field moves out, so the stillness of around the body, like your immediate space.
Yeah. And then I even go one layer deeper and I talk about the space between your thoughts, the stillness between your thoughts. And I think that's so interesting, like it's so in tune with our bar for this month, which is the earth, that it's like that's where you started.
Yes.
And this is why we're exploring Kaya Sthiram here, is because Kaya Sthiram is so intimately related to the earth. But that's exactly it. Like, this is the process, right? It's like, if you actually notice, most of the things around you are not moving. Like, we're sitting in this room, the walls aren't moving, the floor's not moving, the things around us are not moving. Everything is still except for us. It's just like, where the movement in this space, where the rajas.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything else is tamas. Everything else is completely settled. And I think, like, for me, this is just bringing up this thought of, like, evolution, that it's like our brains are kind of wired for this alertness because alertness helps us to maintain the safety.
Yes, I do, yeah.
But at a certain point, that mental alertness has to be able to recognize safety. And that's, I think, the bridge into Kaya Sthiram, that actually, like, what we're looking for here is a doorway.
Yeah.
It's a doorway into stillness. And only by consciously recognizing that we're safe can our brains and bodies start to move into that stillness. And so it's like, we actually are using Kaya Sthiram as the doorway that is consciously recognizing the stillness that is inherent in the universe.
That's so funny, because that's actually, I teach that at the very beginning of my class. Like, the door is locked, we're safe, like nothing, and if anything arises, I will let you know, to provide that sense of safety for the class.
Remember that time the heater blew up? It's just like, did you let them know?
Well, obviously, because you can hear the crackling.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so this is it, right? This is our human existence, and I think this is why I love yoga so much, is because yoga spawned out of simply noticing the nature of things. When we notice the nature of things, then we can attune ourselves to that nature, right? And so it's like, we there's no way you can find rest until you recognize that stillness around you. In that point, it's like, physiologically there's a shift, and the physiological shift is connected to the brain, and the brain is then the physical mechanism of mind. So by recognizing the stillness through Kaya Sthiram, we are actually telling the nervous system all is safe, and it's within that safety that we can actually have the yoga experience. And so I think what makes Kaya Sthiram so beautiful as, like, a meditative practice is that it's like, it's quite familiar for people. Everyone has a body, right? I have a body, you have a body, you have a body, the listener. And it's not until we recognize that body that we can anchor our awareness, right? Because it's like, if the mind's always moving, what are you going to anchor the mind on? And I think for so many people, it's like, they come into meditation, it's like, oh, let's do a mantra. The mantra is moving, and it's completely mental. And so it's like, the mind can't stop, because it's like, oh, we're just giving ourselves something else to think. But until we actually can settle the body, the mind can't settle. So sometimes, most of the time, Kaya Sthiram is what we teach before mantra, before any kind of meditation technique. It's like, let's use our body as an anchor. Let's focus our attention in the body. And it's so interesting that you said before that, like, yin was the big shift for you. Because what's the intention of yin?
Stillness.
Yeah, it's stillness, but also observe the bodily sensations. Observe the body in stillness. It's almost like yin is Kaya Sthiram embodied in a practice.
100%.
So we're using the body as an anchor for our attention. And then it's like, when we are present with the body and we can get the body to be still, the mind's just going to follow suit.
Yes.
Lovely. All right, so let's have a look at some places where, like, in the texts where this Kaya Sthiram shows up. I think it's interesting because Kaya Sthiram as a technique is never really, like, it's not explicit in any of the texts, but it's implied in all of the texts as a foundation. And you know, we're all so familiar. What do you think the most famous Yoga Sutra is?
Sthiram Sukham Asanam.
Yeah. It has to be.
I was just like, You really put me on the spot
It
there.
would have to be, though. It would have to be, because it's like, okay, everyone always says that we're doing our asanas. Yoga Sutra says, Sthiram Sukham Asanam. What does that mean? It means to be steady and effortless in the postures. Don't try too hard, but also don't just flop on the floor. It's not about being completely relaxed, but it's also not about being rigid. And we're trying to find this kind of balance between the two. And so I think this very famous Yoga Sutra, it's maybe the first reference that we have for this practice of Kaya Sthiram, is like, it's in the second chapter, Sthiram Sukham Asanam. Asana is that posture which is steady and effortless, right? And this is, it's a teaching on Kaya Sthiram, because what's asana in the context of the Yoga Sutra?
The pose, your body.
But it's also your meditation pose.
Yes.
Yeah, in Yoga Sutra, it's not about these different poses like in Hatha Yoga, but it's about these are the sit down and meditate postures. And so this Sthiram Sukham is like, let your body be steady and let that be the thing that allows the mind to become absorbed in infinite. And that's what they recognize to be mastery of asana, your mind absorbed in the infinite. So I think that's the first textual reference that we have, is Sthiram Sukham Asanam. Kaya Sthiram, let the body be steady. Okay, so then in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it says, asana steadies the body and gives firmness. It doesn't even really talk about the sukham, the effortlessness, but it really kind of reinforces the steadiness, the sthiram. So again, in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, we've got Kaya Sthiram. Then what it says is, when prana moves, the mind moves. When prana is still, the mind becomes still, right? So it adds this extra layer that we've been talking about. First, steady the body. That's first chapter, Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Second chapter, it says when prana moves, the mind moves. So let the prana be still, steady, sthiram, and then the mind will be still, steady, and sthiram. So it's like, start with the body, then let the prana settle, and then ultimately the mind will settle. So I think this is the thing, like, it's this consistent message that the mind doesn't arrive until the body arrives. And our first order of practice is steady the body. Steady the body, everything else will follow.
Yeah, well, it's like, have you ever tried like running really fast or doing something really, really vigorous, but then actually steadying your breath? It's like, it's really, really difficult. And if your breath is elevated and moving really fast, then it's sending this signal to the body that we're like running away from threat. We have to keep going, and then the mind stays really alert.
So let's talk about this practically. This is what we kind of do, is how do we actually integrate this into our yoga practice? Like, if we're going to take away everything that we've learned here, what are we looking at in our yoga practice? I think the first thing is just like, do less.
Yes.
Do less asanas. You don't have to do 100 different asanas to just get to the stillness of Shavasana, because a lot of the time that's just exhaustion.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of people, the shift in their yoga practice can be do less asanas. Hold those asanas for longer periods of time. And whilst you're holding them, like, try to minimize the fidgeting.
Yes.
Try to minimize the, like, looking around the room. Try to minimize the grab your water bottle and have a little quick drink break. Just, like, be there and be in the steadiness of whatever asana that you're doing. And whilst you're doing that asana, it's like, be in your body. Something that we always come back to is like, asana means the mind comes home to the body. The mind takes its seat in the body. And it's like, that's the asana, is the seat.
Yeah.
And so the mind takes its seat in its body when we actually give our full awareness and attention to what we're doing. Yeah? Okay, the other thing is, whilst you're doing your asanas, perhaps there's like a mantra that you can use. It's like a reminder, something you repeat to yourself. And it could be something like, I am here, right? Or I am in my body. I am aware of what I'm doing. Just that simple reminder of, I'm here, I'm doing this asana, there's steadiness in this asana.
There's one that I use quite often in my own practice, and it's like, where are my feet?
Love that.
Yeah.
Where are my feet? I need that. I've got the clumsiest feet on the planet.
There you go.
Okay, and so then what about in daily life? Like, how would this show up in daily life for us?
Pausing between like different tasks, and actually being like, oh, like, how do I feel? What's the reflection of that task? I just went for a walk. Great. I just did my taxes. Cool. But it's just like constantly coming back to reflecting on, how you are, where you are.
And like doing. The body sensations after doing that task. Yeah, okay. Cool. And so then it's like, before you do the next task, settle the body.
Yes.
It's like, not just notice the body, notice the residue physically of that, whatever you've done.
Yeah.
And then take a little moment and settle before re-engaging in whatever you're doing next. It's like those little moments of pause. Daily Kaya Sthiram's.
Daily Kaya Sthiram's.
What are you doing? I'm just doing my daily Kaya Sthiram's. I'm just noticing the stillness around me before I do my next thing. Well, imagine if all people did that. What a beautiful world it would be.
Everyone would be so calm.
Oh my God. There'd be just people sitting down for a moment.
The benches in the parks would actually get used.
Oh my God, all that money that our government spends on the park benches. Put bums on park benches, I say. Okay, cool. So, for you, Lina, like, what changed when you allowed your body to become completely still before asking your mind to settle?
I think it was that sense of recognizing that I am safe, and it was just so much easier to drop into how I'm feeling and what I'm feeling, and to support my needs, because it's like, if I'm constantly rushing, sometimes I forget to drink water, sometimes I forget to eat lunch, and it's like, but I haven't met my basic human needs. And so how can my mind settle and move into meditation if it can't trust me to support my basic human needs? And so it's like, I sit down, I'm like, I'm a little bit thirsty, let me have some water. Great. And then you can move
exactly on. So it's like, I think what I'm hearing from you is that you don't really know how you feel unless you feel.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's like, that's such a gift from yoga that I think so many of us get, is like, the gift of yoga is actually understanding yourself. And it's like, if you're so busy all the time, you can't listen to the signals, the hunger signals, the thirst signals, the I need to go to the toilet signals, the I'm really anxious signals. It's that yoga that gives us the pause to actually to be able to notice and then act from a place of presence instead of just urgency. Cool. All right. Well, how you feeling? I feel like this is good. We're pretty much done.
Great. Yeah, I feel really good. Thanks for having me on my very first podcast.
All right. So if you are a person who practices yoga, I would very highly encourage you to go and check out our website. Listen to this podcast. We do it for free. Lina's not getting paid. Well, Lina's getting paid. I'm not getting paid. We as a business don't make any profit out of this podcast. What does help us, though, to pay our wages and to keep everything running and to keep us doing this podcast for you is those people who actually show up and come and do some practice with us. So what I would say is check out the show notes, go over to our website and have a look at what we've got going on for 2026. We've got so much going on. I'm going to be in Sri Lanka for a 200-hour training in July. And right after that training, Lina is going to come and join me, and we're going to run a retreat together where we get to go and explore some beautiful things trainings in Sri Lanka and stay at Lanka Yoga, swim in the pool, drink coconuts. She's very excited. I'm very
so
excited. We're also going to be running our 300 hour. The wait list has just opened and we have opened up all the spots. So my feeling is that this training is going to fill up very quickly. So if you are a 200 hour qualified teacher, you want to do your 300 hour, it's happening online for the first 7 modules, and then I'm going to take you to India in 2027, early 2027 for a 2-week immersion. So if you're a 200 hour teacher, you want to do a 300 hour, check that out. We also have some online trainings. I run a 100 hour Hatha Yoga training, a 50 hour Yin training, and then we have the Sadhana Sangha. So go and check all of that out. If you want to connect with us, you'll find us at omsom.yoga on all platforms. Our website is exactly the same, www.omsom.yoga. That's omsom.yoga. Thanks for listening. Share this with someone that you love, your yoga friend. We'll see you next time. Hariom.